welcome to a slightly unusual Spotlight series in the fact that we have three gentlemen here from Brazil. And that all of these people have come through a random connection that we made with Sammy, who is possibly the nicest, kindest, most generous man in InsurTech globally, who happens to be out in Brazil and has brought along Igor and Mauro into the conversation. So first of all, Sammy, thank you very much for making today possible. It's a pleasure to have all of you on board. Can we kick off? Sammy, maybe can you give a quick introduction to you and to your role in InsurTech Brazil and what you guys get up to there?
Well, Matt, thank you very much for the compliment and for having us. Amazing. I'm a big fan of your work of Soaring Global. So thank you for having us. I'm an insurance veteran. I worked for several large insurance companies in Brazil, companies like Porto Seguro, where I was head of corporate strategy, investor relation. Then I moved to Sompo, Japan. I stayed there for 7 years, taking care of affinities, life insurance. I left Sompo in 2018, and today I have an innovation hub, basically supporting and accelerating innovation to incumbents in the region. I work in Peru, in Colombia, and mainly in Brazil, of course.
Lovely. Thank you, Sammy. So Mauro, can we jump to you? So co-founder and CEO of 180. And can you give us a little bit of insight into the business and how you came up with the business and where you guys are at in the company?
Yeah, first of all, Matt, thank you very much for having me. And Sammy, like you said, Matt, he's the nicest guys, and it puts Igor and I in a tough spot here to try to be, a little bit nice. I'm sure we are. But so thank you very much for having me here. 180, we have exactly 1 year here in Brazil, and I'm sure we'll get to discuss a little bit about what's happening in Brazil in terms of insurance, a little bit more macro. But what we believe is now a great opportunity in Brazil, and it's happening throughout the world, is a dispersion in distribution models, right? And that happens in many industries, even media and auto, in traditional medias and in traditional sectors and in new sectors. And we believe that there's a huge opportunity for that in Brazil. So we have a B2B2C model where we empower both companies that have great relationships with their clients, and today they're unable to sell insurance as part of their client relationship. So we power them to offer great services, insurance to their clients. And on the other hand, we also serve incumbents a great service, because in many parts they don't have the skill set to work alongside tech companies, high growth companies, or even big retailers that today need a lot of tech in what they're offering, and maybe they don't have the speed to serve them or the skill set. So we kind of serve both sides of the marketplace, trying to bring insurance to the daily life of Brazilians through new distribution channels. That's kind of 180.
Yeah, super interesting. What an interesting position to be in as well, and what market context you must have around you to be able to operate. And so last but certainly not least, Igor from Pierre. So again, co-founder and CEO. Tell me a little bit more about your business.
So first of all, thank you very much, Sammy, for organizing everything. Mauro, it's a pleasure to talk again. And Matt, nice to meet you. So I'm co-founder and CEO at Pierre. We are a leader in InsurTech in Brazil. We have a full stack business. So we design all the experience of the customer, have a direct to consumer. So we help the customer make a decision, purchasing the insurance, and we have AI models to help the customers in all lifetime. And we pay claims very quickly. We pay 25% of the claims instantly. In less than 10 seconds, the user receives the money in the bank account. So our thesis really creates a customer-driven company with a full stack position. We believe that in the long term. In the last month, we are very consistently delivering a high NPS, 80+, with a hyper growth and sustainable loss ratio. So we try to redesign all the insurance value chain in Brazil from the awareness moment to the claims moment. So we are a full stack position. Thank you
Well,
very
super
much.
interesting. Okay, so we've got Sammy with the incumbents, we've got Mario on the distribution side, and we've got full stack over here. So superb. What a great mix. Sammy, give me an insight into Brazil right now. Okay, so and I contextualize that with a lot of the work that we do in Sonar. It starts out at very kind of US, so North US, North America kind of focused. Then there's a lot of European activity. So we're based out of the UK. In terms of our head office, and there's an awful lot of stuff going on in Asia, right? Particularly in the Chinese market. Then you've got the kind of the lesser known market. So we've gone into depth in the past in the Indian market, and we've done a lot of stuff there. But for us, like the LATAM market is and I'm saying for us globally in the insurtech scene, it's a very unknown, untapped market. Where is the market at, and kind of what's the opportunity there for the world of insurtech, and how mature are things getting?
Great question, Matt. We are living in amazing times in terms of innovation, insurance innovation. As in other countries, insurance was lagging behind in terms of innovation, and I think one of the main drivers of this innovation is a new regulator. Just to give you an example, I was in the times that the reinsurance was a monopoly of the state, and it took us 10 years to change this monopoly regulation. Now, in the last 2 years, we've got the sandbox regulation that dropped the entry barriers that the market normally usually used to have. So now, solvency issue, capital issues, now with 15 times less capital, you can start up a new insurance company. Of course, we've limited in volumes, it's an experimental environment, but this is bringing a lot of innovation. So you have a peer as a very good example here. We used to have a lot of inflexibility in terms of product offering. Now we have a lot of more flexibility to design, to give modules or offerings, on-demand insurance, personalized insurance. So I really think it's the end of the one-size-fits-all that I used to live in the past. So now we can do like personalized. So the environment is really very good. I feel that most investors that I've been talking to are bullish about Brazil, and as we were talking before, low penetration in all business lines. We also find concentration in terms of market share and that was one of the reasons the insurance authority is fostering the innovation, and the objective in the end of the day, of course, is to double insurance penetration, which already is only 4% of GDP. So the idea is to double it in the next 5 years. So these are the main drivers. So we are really excited about this flourishing innovation in our market.
Super interesting. And Igor, from your perspective, I watched a video interview. You're sitting on a panel and you're talking about how underserved the market is, and the low penetration that insurance has had across that. Is that the influence behind you setting up a full stack, or is that otherwise? And kind of what are the opportunities that you're seeing for your business out there?
Exactly. If you see, all lines in Brazil is underpenetrated. I said only 30% of the fleet of cars has insurance in Brazil. Less than 10% of the housings, less than 5% of people has insurance in Brazil, life insurance in Brazil. So all the lines is underpenetrated. And when analyzing that, we can see two big reasons. The first one is education. The people are not educated to buy insurance. Mm-hmm. Something that people think, if they think about insurance, they attract the risk. There's this kind of thing in Brazil. So the first part to be a full stack is really understand the awareness moments and the purchasing moments. So I want to control this moment to increase our penetration in the underserved. In the second part is really design the products. If you don't design the products, it's impossible selling the old products. In the past, we have some lines in Brazil that the regulators say for the consumer, don't buy this insurance because it's a trap. So we have to redesign the products, redesign the way to deliver this product for the population. And we only can do that as a full stack position. We handle the distribution channel, we design the product, we price the customers, we pay claims, we send information for the regulator, all the managed policies and the handle is made by us. We have a proprietary solutions for that. So control all the experience allow us deliver for the best customers. For instance, 70% of our customers don't have insurance before peer. So we try to achieve for underserved. And after that, they refer for friends, parents, and we have a great loop for new customers. So it's because that we design a full stack position, design the product, controlling all the experience and educate the consumer to buy our products.
It's really interesting. So I spoke with Daniel Schreiber from Lemonade just before his IPO, and I remember vividly the timing because I asked him about any likelihood that they will go to the public market and IPO, and he completely avoided the question. And then the week later they floated, right? So so interesting. What he was talking about is two things. He talks about the importance of digital substrates, which is a phrase he's referenced many times in interviews, and that building from the ground up. So you got exactly as you're saying about your own company. But then he's also talking about the lack of full stack insurtech players in the market. And when we look at the global market, and certainly in the kind of maybe the more developed insurance markets, what we're seeing is a very small percentage of full stack like disruptors, if we're going to use the term, right? So going head to head with the mainstay, and the rest of those businesses being enablers. And it's a really brave path, but potentially if you get this right, and from everything we've seen about your business, you are, and you're going in the right direction. It's going to be a very valuable market, of course, for you as well, and especially with the growth of that. And Mario, let me jump to you in terms of that. The kind of distribution play, because one of the big trends that we're seeing this quarter, and we publish like an insurtech briefing to the market about the trends that we're witnessing. One of the key things that we're focused on for this quarter, so from Q3, is embedded insurance, right? It's absolutely the potential game changer to the market, and you know, we're chatting. We've seen, you know, the obvious is Amazon out in the marketplace, who in India provide car insurance through Amazon Pay. They've got their kind of healthcare business in the US, and in the US and the UK now we've seen commercial insurance roll out. Is this going to be following the same suit is embedded going to play the same role in LATAM? Is that a game changer for you guys in changing the landscape?
Yeah, well, we certainly believe so. So if you look at Brazilians, we have like a very, very high penetration of internet. So, you know, and smartphone, among the highest in the world, which is unbelievable. There's a recent report by Atletico that says that, you know, Brazilians spend on average 10 hours a day on the internet, being that on their smartphone or you know, on their computers. So it's a huge part of the everyday life of 65% of Brazilians. And you can do everything here in Brazil through your app or your computer, as in most places in the world. But yet the experience with insurance is not that good. And you know, so you can buy a house through your smartphone, but it's hard for you to, apart from peer, to get auto insurance through your app, right? So what we do is, although we're not a full stack, we try to control the entire customer experience. So, you know, we have partnerships. One that we launched most recently is that, you know, park your car, and this is an app that is present in 11 cities in Brazil, and insure your belongings inside the car for 1 hour. And so what this app had told us before is, look, I wanted to have a product, and to what Sammy was saying prior, insurance companies only gave me a monthly coverage that was super expensive. You're parking your car for 4 reais. You don't want to spend 100 reais a month. You're worried when you're parking your car that your items might get stolen inside your car, stolen. So what we did here is a 49 cents insurance that, you know, you click on your app, and then you obviously you receive everything through your email, so it check the boxes and all the regulatory requirements. But it's like when that person is parking their car, they're buying that 1 hour insurance, and it's the first 1 hour insurance in Brazil. So for us, that's kind of like, we wanted to, with this insurance, kind of open everyone's mind here in Brazil of like what insurance really can be. You know, it can be something simple, cheap, accessible, that people understand, to Igor's point, that you get paid quickly and you can trust, and there's no you know, blueprints when you actually need to use it, or fine prints. So we do believe that, you know, since Brazilians are really connected through their smartphones, and they have great relationships in many sectors with, you know, great tech companies, great retailers, great whatever, that, you know, they should be consuming insurance, and it should play a bigger part of their daily life. So we think this is a huge opportunity here in Brazil.
Yeah, and
Matt,
if
go for it, Sammy.
Yeah, if I may add, I think the embedded insurance will solve our distribution gap, and of course the protection gap, because it's of course it's much easier to access the population that doesn't have access to insurance so far. So it's very promising, absolutely.
And then looking, so stay with that for a second. So looking at the role of incumbents, how is that going to change the incumbents in the LATAM market? What is it? Because if they're now not the ones who are selling the insurance, it pushes them to a more of a back office role, right? How are they opening their eyes to embedded, the opportunities of embedded? Are they threatened by that? Is it business as usual for these guys?
In a way, it's business as usual, but most of the incumbents are not ready for embedded insurance because of legacy systems. So this is one of my challenges is to do this digital transformation that you need to have the capacity to offer on a scale or basis. But I think we will have new entrants in the market with a full stack proposition offering embedded insurance. Of course, you have the traditional affinity companies that are specialized and are more ready for. I mean, I'm talking about the Chubbs and the Zurichs. They have already a hand in the affinity market. And the affinity market should transform itself on an embedded insurance value proposition in the next few years.
Yeah. And Matt,
super interesting.
I would add to that, you know, if it's not even day one for insurance disruption in Brazil, you know, Igor was there in day zero, so he got there like before it all started, and now it's like the first minute of the first day. So
how does that reflect? How does that reflect for you guys? Because I'm totally with you, right? From everything that I'm witnessing as an observer of the market, but how does that feel? Does that feel like, I don't know, people are expressing more interest? There's more inbound investment. Are there communities setting up? What does it look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I think from the perspective that Sammy was saying, like, this is all too new to really bother the insurance and for them to have a plan, you know. So I think that's at least my perception, you know. And then I think from the investor side, there's tremendous interest because they've seen you know, what happened in the financial sector in Brazil, where you still have very concentrated system, but you had a regulator that worked in opening up, and now you have, you know, a full range of very successful fintech companies, be it in payments, digital bank, etc. So now when people look at insurance investors and they're like, okay, this is a sector that's clearly below its potential. It's clearly not serving customers, you know, the high quality standards that people demand nowadays. So there's a huge opportunity, be it in auto, direct to consumer, be it in embedded. So I think and like I said, but it's still the first minute of the first day. So you have, you know, the first insurtechs of this cohort coming out, and it's very exciting. But I'm sure that there's still a lot to come, be it from one agent here, and I'm sure there's going to be like a bunch of other really interesting insurtechs, because it's still like really the beginning of everything.
So any beginnings, it's like pushing water up a hill, if that translates, right? It's tough work for you guys because the market's not ready, the regulator's not ready, the incumbents aren't ready, potentially the customers aren't ready. Exactly, right. So it's tough times. How have you found that? Because I mean, one of the traits of a successful entrepreneur is resilience, right? It's having thick skin, being able to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Igor, let's jump to you, because again, I heard in the same interview I was listening to you talk about it. It's tough. You had challenges seemingly at the early stages of your business around whether you're compliant here, compliant there, compliant here, and almost kind of threatened on route to setting up your business. How's your journey been as an entrepreneur setting up this company? Is it everything you hoped for?
It's a great question. It's a great question. When Paul Graham started Y Combinator, Paul Graham think I would like to select the most intelligent guys. And after he started Y Combinator, they say, I have a threshold of intelligence that I have to push. But after that, I would like to select and pick up the most determined guys.
Right.
We start Peer in 2017. I personally was to our regulator to explain about venture capital, about startups, insurtechs. I stay almost 1 year and we don't do nothing. We don't launch our products. I launched in 2018. Our seed round, I have to spend the half in lawyers and the audits. I received the criminal investigation. I received the administrative prosecutions. It's incredible hard to create an insurance carrier in Brazil. Probably it's most difficult to create an insurance carrier than a bank in Brazil. Almost 3 years, we can really receive our license. We are the first insurance carrier, digital insurance carrier in Brazil. In this process it's so hard, it's so difficult. You have to touch your customers, as Sam said, your investors, the marketing, the employees, the regulator, the competitors. So it's a huge journey. It's very difficult, but it's so pleasure. When you see the consumer talk about Peer, the people ask, will you marry me because your experience is so great that we like to connect with you in my life? When you receive a paper letter in your office because the consumer loved your experience. When we pay a claim and a smartphone for a customer and the police find the smartphone and the consumer go personally in our office, say, this smartphone owes to you because you pay for me so honestly, so quickly, that's the smartphone. When you receive this kind of feedback of the consumer, you say, I'm the correct path. This is the most important fuel to starting again. So for me, it's amazing journey. It's so difficult, but the pleasure is amazing. And now we have like more than 6,000 customers. We have the great investors in our cap table. We have 150 employees believing that we will really create the largest insurtech insurance carrier in Latin America, will be a global benchmark in AI first insurance. So when you see this kind of feedback, you say, oh, we are in the correct path, but it's so difficult. When I talk with new entrepreneurs, I say, thinking about mental health, because anyone talk about me in the mental health, and the challenge is so huge. I am like an athlete of generative value. My personal trainer think I am an entrepreneur, my nutrition, my therapist, all these professionals helping me to be a better entrepreneur. So it's very difficult, it's very pleasure. And you feedback all this information from the consumers, investors, employees, you say, oh, I'm in the correct path. And okay.
Thank you.
Completely agree with Mary. It's the day one. It's completely day one.
Yeah. Super insight, Igor. Thank you for sharing that. Mary, what about you? So more recent business, but I love that. I love that entrepreneur story, right? So what about for you over the last year or so?
Yeah, so prior to 180, I spent 5 years at Nubank, which is one of the largest digital banks in the world. And I joined when it was, 100,000 customers. And by the time I left, it was more than 30 million. Obviously, it's not due to me, but I was part of the whole journey. And something that was very strong at Nubank, and we try really hard to do here at 180 was this ownership mentality, right? So, you're your owner, and you're not renters, you're owners. And so like ready for the prior to 180, it was taking a lot of punches and not going down. So why at Nubank, no one wanted to open a bank account for us because we're competing against the banks. So I had to go to like street branches and like wiggle my way to opening an account and then bringing the CFO and then the branch manager, like, how much are you going to deposit? We're like 80 million reais and his eyes are like this. So we had to like fight against the system, but it's rewarding. And again, to Igor's point, if you really are purpose driven and you think you're going to, make a huge impact in people's lives. And so it's not about increasing penetration by 1%. It's, by doing that, by bringing like products that people really like. And here in 180, it's, I was asked recently, like, how would I define the first year as a startup? And it's chaos, but you need to embrace chaos and the only certainty you have is that any plan that you make, you have to change, at least 5 times a day. So it is, and it's tough, but it's rewarding if you think that you're creating something really different, and in the end you're going to impact people in a positive way, and they're going to have their coverage and they're going to be happy, and then they're going to tell their friends, like, you don't think of insurance as exciting, but if you have a great experience, you're going to be, hey, I had a great experience, parked my car, they broke in, and I WhatsApped and I had my claims paid very, very fast. So it's we that work in insurance, we think insurance is very exciting and everyone should be excited. And so like you take a lot of blows when you're starting your business, especially in a country like Brazil that's not for amateurs, but it's extremely rewarding. So it's been a great first year. I still have hair; it's not all white, and so
you'll catch up with Sammy soon.
Yeah.
You are already.
Sammy's not our benchmark. Yeah, but it's a tough journey, but it's rewarding.
Sure. But also there's a connection to that, right, with the role of culture within the incumbents and their ability to change. And so, Sammy, maybe a few words from you around the work that you're doing to help those incumbents, stay relevant, stay competitive, thrive in the future. I don't know really the right choice of words for that, but maybe explain a little bit more about how you are able to help and work with them, because you seemingly have a wonderful CV and track record personally, and a lot of experience and exposure now in connection to the insurtech space. So how do you bring that to bear in the relationships that you have with the incumbents in the market?
Yeah, good question, Matt. I think the incumbents are very attentive to innovation. For example, I'm doing innovation programs for C-level. So we had a Tel Aviv program in last May. It was very successful, where we showed a lot of case studies in AI. I mean, very focused on in insurance. We are discussing with you guys China and UK for recently. I've been doing a lot of in-company lectures, workshop with C-levels, bringing a lot of use cases. One of my big projects right now is to create a platform to empower brokers, traditional brokers, in the digital space. So it's a multi-channel, cross communication platform that will allow brokers to communicate through TikTok, through Facebook, through Instagram, including selling. It's a very nice tool. I have another project with a big bank in predictive data analytics. It's a very, very interesting case. Also, accelerated underwriting for the first tire carrier. And they're all very open. And I was thinking during the conversation with Igor and Mauro, we are really in day one, but from the time that the incumbents feel that they are losing market share, or I mean, they will react very quickly, which is the natural market reaction. But of course, startups has the advantage of the agility of not having a legacy system. So when you have a legacy system and a legacy culture is really an issue of changing behavior and changing culture and changing all your infrastructure. So this will happen slowly. I mean, with time, of course.
That's because we work in the world of insurance. Nothing moves too quickly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's interesting. So there's, and I don't know if any of you guys have a view on this, but there's a so I was on I was a guest speaker on a webinar. It must have been mid last week. It was an evening event, and there were representatives from big companies, as you would expect, who lead certain divisions or lead large teams. And I found myself, I was delivering, the investment into the market, the growth we're seeing in here and there, and it's all the same, and the year-on-year growth and the year-on-year this and the year-on-year that. But my God, nothing's changed quickly, right? And I was saying the same stuff 5 years ago, slightly different numbers, and I'm like speaking to seemingly the same crowd about the same stuff. Just like, when is change going to happen? So I've got a really interesting, really, it's like I believe it's interesting. My viewpoint on actually what, with the exception of the Igors and the Daniel Schreibers of the world, the full stack carriers. What I truly believe is that the competitive landscape is going to be much more between the insurers who do not innovate and the insurers who do innovate. And I think we're already starting to see a sort of a divergence in performance lines between those businesses, right? So it almost to the point where when the strategic impulse to change is sufficiently great, so when the need to change is enough, they won't have the innovation muscle or capability to respond, yeah, because they haven't been experimenting with anything. Whereas those who have been innovating now already know what does and doesn't work, so they can double down on what does work. So I think the main competition, what we're going to see is between those who do innovate and those who don't innovate, but also then the externals. So to Mauro's point, the retailers, those coming into the space, whether it's from banking, whether it's from other sectors, who are playing that embedded card. So I think what you're going to have is you're going to have some really interesting kind of reflection of the PAs in the world who are limited, but when they work beautifully well, right? And we've seen that probably one or two in each of the established markets. And Pierre, I'm sorry, Igor, I assume the same is going to be for Pierre from everything you've said and I've read. But I'd be interesting to think how quickly it's going to change for you guys, right? So those established markets have been so slow. But now you guys are coming to a new space where you are the 1%, but I feel like you're going to get to the 50 to the 100 much more quickly than those other markets. But I don't know if you have that same kind of global perspective on what else is going on out there. What have you seen? Who have you connected with, and just how quickly you expect things to change in your market? I'd love to know that from LATAM and also more locally Brazil. That's a thought or a reflection to any of you guys, if you want to pick it up.
I have a quick point I would like to comment on that, Matt, which is like, I think a great analogy here is like when I heard once talking about the razor market in the US, where you had, Gillette with 80% of market share. You're like, wow, Gillette is amazing. But then if you looked at people who are switching brands or buying for the first time, how many are buying Gillette? And, it was like Dollar Shave Club and these new brands had, 90%. So because the insurance market is big, but the marginal changes take a long time to impact the whole, So I would say like in Brazil, people who never bought a car insurance, how many are buying Pierre? For me, that's like the key question. People who never bought a 1 hour insurance in Brazil and are buying, we have 100% share, but like that's where the change is happening. And so I think that, when you look at the big picture, you can say, wow, yeah, it's still too small year over year. It's not meaningful. But then when you look at the margin, and maybe Gillette today in the US has, 30% market share, I don't know. But it started with like people who are buying for the first time or switching for the first time. So I think that's where we're looking. We start like at the edges, and soon will be meaningful. And I think there's a great quote that David from Nubank uses it a lot from Gandhi, which is, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And I think we're maybe like they don't even ignore us because maybe they don't even know we exist. And obviously, you may pick up a fight here or there, like Igor has picked up a few, but in the big picture, they're still ignoring us. So that's how I see, like when you look in Brazil and how changes are happening. So it's first slowly and then suddenly. That's how I see it.
Superb. Love it. Okay, last question for all of you, and I think it's so I'd be really interested in and feel free not to give out anything particularly sensitive on this one, but just kind of reflections for your own business, just that kind of entrepreneurial ambition of where you think you're going to get to, where you want to climb your business. I'm not after the $1 billion valuation answer, but more the kind of what is the impact that you want to have on the market, on the global market, local market. And where do you want to take your business? And maybe Igor, if we can start with you, I think that'd be super interesting.
Great question. I use a quote as well. There's a quote from Bill Gates. They say most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they completely underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I think several times when the incumbents, when the people are talking about insurance, they think about 1 year, 2 years. Oh, I can digitalization this process and will be reduce our G&A in 1%. Well, it's not about that. It's about how the society is changing, how you identify this kind of trend. As Mauro said, in the next 10 years, 30% of the P&C insurance will be embedded insurance. This kind of trend you have to understand. And understand the people behavior. For us, why we deliver an amazing CSAT, an amazing NPS, because we believe only satisfaction creates a long-term, and satisfaction completely voluntary. In this term, for a long-term, made completely difference, because if the people love your company, your brand, they are so connected, all the products will be in the same company. In our vision, understand the people behavior, see the long term, in the next 10 years, how the insurance market will change it. If you see the globally, the leaders has like 3-4% of the market share in the global. If you see companies like Google, they have more than 50%, 6% the market share in your market. So this sector is completely pulverized in the world, it's completely concentrated in the regions. So you have to understand how the people works in each place to deliver leaders locally and leaders globally, that you don't have leaders globally talking. So for us, it's the 10 years. I have a people and say, in the next 5 years, if I do that, you change it. If not, I will do that. So all the time you're thinking the really long-term journey, because in this society we are competing, and you can create a leader in a local way, but probably create a global benchmark, because globally talking, all the insurances is smaller. They have like 3-4% of the market share. So for us, it's the long-term vision and the long-term marathon.
Love it. Mauro, what about you and your business?
Well, I think, like I said, we're still at insurance is day one. We're still in our day one here, and we just completed 1 year. And I think Igor's quote is very good. Like, if we look back, we wouldn't think we would have achieved so much in 1 year, and we're definitely underestimating how much impact we can have in a longer term horizon. I think, when we look at the opportunity here, we call it our BHAG, or big, hairy, ambitious goal, which is like we want to transform how insurance is distributed and consumed in Brazil. And you know, those are big words, but we have to start somewhere. And so we're on to what we think is a very good start, but we're far from having solved, you know, so many challenges that will be vital. So we want to be, you know, that player that powers when you want to have, you as a consumer in Brazil, want to have, you know, the best digital experience in insurance. We want to be powering that product. So that's kind of like our vision of where we want to be in a couple of years. And, you know, let's see how it goes. And so far it's been very exciting.
I love it. I wish you both of you guys a huge amount of success for the future. Sammy, let's wrap up and finish with you if that's okay. So InsurTech Brazil in 10 years time. Tell me what's the journey from now to there? What are you hoping for from the association that you're setting up and you're building there?
Well, Matt, my ambition is in 5 years is to be among one of the most relevant persons in terms of digital transformation for the traditional market, for the incumbents. So now I am also in day one, or maybe even before. But I have, for example, I have 5 POCs in place, starting POCs. These are meant to be very relevant projects for very large insurance companies. So my idea is to really invest in this area. So I'm doing a lot of great connections around the globe. And in 5 years, I want to be one of the most relevant persons in terms of digital transformation for traditional insurance companies.
Love it. Thank you, Igor, Mauro. It's been an absolute pleasure, and honestly, as a kind of entrepreneur to entrepreneur, just all the best for the businesses, right? It's brilliant. Sammy, still, I'm afraid that Igor and Mauro, the nicest, kindest, most generous man in the InsurTech community. No slight on either of you chaps, but thank you for bringing together today. For introducing me to these 2 great founders. And yeah, look, I'm excited for the whole of LATAM, right? We recently did our Future 50 Americas. It was wonderful to see businesses from South America feature in that, and I think it's a wonderfully exciting place on the global stage. And I can't wait to once we're opened up with travel a little bit more and COVID settled down, to get myself out there and enjoy some time. And hey, you never know. Even we were talking before the call about I was approached for a house swap by somebody in Brazil. You never know, maybe I'll take him up on that and spend some proper time out there and meet you guys personally. So thank you very much for today. Let's stay in touch. Sammy, we always will, right?
Absolutely. You will have a lot of good news from Latam from now on, I guarantee.
Oh, it's a pleasure. All right, all the best. Have good days, guys.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.